Huh? Huh? What about that? What about that? I know it's been a while since we've had an entry here on You Know a Trader and the old Aileron Trading channel. I know it's been a while, but I thought, okay, if we're going to start doing entries, I want a risk disclaimer. Not for legality's sake, because there's no advice here or anything. But more than anything else is I actually truly believe in those risk disclosure statements whenever you're talking about any sort of financial instrument or a decision that could be made about a financial instrument, because you may mention an idea and people, well, I'll say it again, I believe in those risk disclosure statements. It's not just something you slap on there. I truly do believe them. And as soon as I said, well, let's put a risk disclosure statement on there, my first thought is, well, we'll have a little music. Oh, wait a minute. I wonder if I know Paul, if I could find Paul's music somewhere. Paul's the friend of mine that does that music in the beginning. So I thought, I wonder if I can find that somewhere. And thus the hunt was on for the music. I had to try and find it again. I know one's mentioned, I always love listening to those drums. Or whenever I announced I was sort of leaving the public sphere before, when they're like, I'm going to miss clicking on a video and hearing those drums start off, right? So the drums are back. I found Paul's music. I slapped together sort of an intro and an outro. And here we are on July the 8th, 2024 with Gamestop. Just a few concluding comments briefly on Gamestop before we get to some other stuff that I want to get to. Somebody mentioned to me, it's like, well, Dan came back and killed GameStop. What was it trading at the last time we did one of these entries? Something like $40 or $37 or $30. I don't even know, right? And I think the last I saw it was being offered at $24.72 when I look over at my other monitor. So, yeah, I want to be very clear because ones have mentioned, it's probably going to crater. Dan had mentioned, take my name out of it. Take my name out of it. And I make no predictions. Anybody that's known me for any length of time knows I am not in the prediction business. Actual traders, and I don't care if they are a quant that does quantified, fundamentally based quant research, because there are entire arenas. There's more price behavior, price rotations type of traders based on price action and things that are going on with volatility. Hey, when this market's doing that and this market's doing that, and it's at 2.3 standard deviations, and then you see this, right? That's more some price action and volatility, and really being volatility adaptive quant research. And then there's a whole other sphere, sort of what Ray Dalio does, right? That's more fundamentally based. And you have guys that are just old floor traders still trading. They don't do any quant research whatsoever. By the way, that word, I almost want to stop using it because it's getting overused by the scammers. I've been seeing so many of these AI quant trading bot scams. And that's what they are. They're scams. It's like you are not a quant because no quant worth his salt would put the words AI tested with quant program and bot in the same sentence. There ain't an actual quant on this planet that would do something like that. Regardless, you got guys that aren't quants. They're just pure discretionary traders from the old days from the pits that have transferred successfully to the screen. That was quite a transfer. Not all of them made it. Not all of them could make it or do it, but some have, right? Every one of these traders, everybody anywhere that's an actual honest-to-God trader knows we are not in the prediction business. We're not. Because what makes you the money is the same thing as what makes a casino money. Payout odds, probability, statistics, in totem, the positive expectancy that can arise from a, wait for it, risk model. A risk model is where I make money. The risk model. That's all I care about. Pretty much. You could almost get me in anywhere and, just pick an asset, get me in anywhere. And if I'm allowed to pick the risk model, over time I'm going to be profitable. I can tell you that. Because the risk model is where the money's made. That's how casinos make their money. That's how good poker players are just out there just grinding it, and you can track their bankrolls. That's what they know. It's about the risk model, right? It's not about these stories that you hear. So what I wanted to say is where it's going, God only knows. I'm not in the prediction business. You know, we saw some company say they were going to have something to do with totally switching over to crypto. I forget what the exact story was. And its stock price went insane. Markets are new, discrete quanta. Discrete meaning, you know, encapsulated, small bits of data released onto a very complex continuous system. You can't predict that. Right? So what's going to happen tomorrow with GameStop? Beats the heck out of me. They could do some weird thing like crypto. Actually, I think they tried to do something like that, and the story didn't take the way it did with another company, so it went nowhere. It went nowhere. So it's not about stories. It's about, if you want to be a trader, you got to have a couple of really key qualities. You got to be stubborn as all get out. I'll tell you, over at GTC Traders now, we just tell people, like, you really got to know that you really want to be a trader. Not just know how to do some investments on the side. If that's the case, do what the rest of us are trying to beat all the time and, you know, go passive. But you got to be stubborn and stick with it. You got to have a particular build for trading, and you got to know it's not about prediction and it's not about stories. It's about what? Say it, class. Everybody repeat it back to me. Thank you. The risk model. It's about the risk model. So, speaking of stories, there is a reason why this happens again and again and again and again and again and again. And that's not a prediction. It's human behavior. It's knowing that humans will behave the way they always have behaved since the eons of recorded human history had began, and we started recording this stuff, and we have stories about it over and over and over again. Notice how you see, like back in June, or even before that, you see these big, spectacular blow-ups, right? You're long from 22.5. Awesome, you're long from 22.5 because you believed a story. Great, wonderful. And then it's up to 27.5. Then it's up to 30 even. 32.5, 35. The euphoria takes over with people getting in after you. People who got in after you. Of course you're thinking you're the king of the world. You're in at 22.5. And if you don't understand it's about the risk model, you start believing a story as to why the thing, and I actually saw these things, go on, and the people saying stuff like this, it's going to go to $150, it's going to go to $300. And why did they believe that? Because they allowed, it's a cognitive bias. It's house money phenomenon. It's what we talked about in the last entry. You see it going up, your entrance has you long, and you're on a lot of money, and the stories that you hear confirm whatever the story that you want to believe, and you start creating emotional ties to that story. I believe XYZ. I don't believe jack all. I'm a trader. I don't believe anything, anybody. Some of my best models, I don't trust them, and I run them. So if you wanted to be a trader, you got to get rid of that all the way. But they believe these stories. And I know it sounds like I'm poking fun. Okay. Yeah, I guess I am poking fun. Right? But I'm not the only one. GTC Traders, we follow a lot of really smart folks on Twitter now. And that's why I'm very encouraged. This is probably the best FinTwit or financial Twitter that I've been on and off that platform since 2009, 2010, and I think it's the best iteration yet. And why? Because you have actual financial professionals coming on just drowning out all the furu nonsense. And there's a lot of cool guys that, I sort of consider it the cool old guys, right? The trade bonds and the ultras, and they'll trade stirs, and there's myself, there's guys talking about, oh my God, Conks stuff. If you're not following Conks, Conks on Twitter, I don't know, Conks, nothing beyond more than just like replies and sort of laughing between replies on Twitter. He posts some of the greatest financial plumbing content I've ever seen in my life. His infographics are just phenomenal. There's a lot of, getting back to the sort of caliber of people that you're dealing with, there's a lot of speculation that he's Zoltan. I don't think he's Zoltan. It does look like he worked at Citadel, There's other guys who worked at Solomon Brothers. There's other guys that, came off the floor, and it just drowns out all the nonsense. And except for one little crybaby that doesn't like this guy. Oh my God. A, he's not that good of a trader. But B, he's got a massive following. I'm not going to mention names here, but you want a little Twitter drama? He will, if he finds out that you follow him and you follow somebody else that has a contrary opinion, he'll block that guy and anybody back before X took away the ability to see who was liking a post. He was so petty. This guy was so petty that he literally would reply to people, if you're not with me, you can't be for him and for me. You got to pick one. So he would block the guy that had a contrary market opinion. Can you believe the level of pettiness? Then go find out and see if any of his followers liked that guy's comment. And it's like, you got to make a decision between him and me. And would block anybody that liked that contrary opinion. And this is a guy that's got quite a following. I was like, who's got time for that sort of level of pettiness? Plus, I want to listen to opinions contrary to my own. Wow. Other than that little weirdo, it's phenomenal. Like, it's really good interchange. Nobody even pays attention to him anymore. The guy ruined his reputation in like 3 days. And it was a reputation. He had legitimately worked at several places. It's quite interesting when you start digging down the rabbit hole of what went on there. But anyways, away from the drama. Everybody's sort of forgotten about him. He ruined his reputation in like 3 days. He threw a Talib-like fit. There's really good interchange. And it's like, oh, I don't hold that opinion, but I sort of see where you're coming from and holding it, And it's a really, really good interchange. Well, you deal with these people that worked at Citadel, worked at Bridgewater. Another guy worked at Bridgewater. Somebody else that came off of the floor. There's Stirs guys. There's Bonds guys. There's Ultras guys. There's guys playing 210s, It's quite interesting because, we talk about like GameStop and all this stuff, right? And ones make fun of the stories. Like, Conks is the best at it. He really is, because he has a way of trolling people without, like, absolutely attacking them. But these stories of, like, it's hitting a gamma wall, so all the hedge funds, you don't even know who's long where. Any filings are, like, 3 months late. You don't even know if they're still holding it. They're hitting a gamma wall, and Conks will just start stringing these words together to make fun of them. I heard it was the Forex reverse repo hitting a gamma wall that's causing a pod to blow up, and they're going to be forced, and we're all cracking up. The point is, I'm not the only one laughing at this nonsense. We all sort of do. Anybody near the professional space? Because these stories you're hearing are complete nonsense, first of all. And if they had any truth to them, the effect would be short-lived. It's about the risk model. And we laugh because the same effect takes over again and again and again. If you're long from 22.5, and as it crawls up to 27.50, and let's say you're still long at 32.50, 33, 34, and you don't understand it's about the risk model, and you think it's about a story, then you're having your emotional biases confirmed to that story. And as it's hitting $40 and $45, no one can tell you anything because you just think you are the single smartest individual that's ever lived. You're already shopping for Ferraris. No one can tell you anything because you're trapped inside house money phenomenon. Here's the thing that people don't understand, and this is true in every single bubble. This is everything. When you go back to, we'll go through them a bit, but just keep in mind what the shape of this chart looks like. I want to stay on this chart for a while because you're going to see the same thing happen again and again when you see bubbles occur in something. You see a slow accumulation. Then you see it slowly take off. Then you see it explode to 32.50, 35, 37.5, 40, 42.5, 45, near 47.5. It just explodes in euphoria. Here's the thing the guy that thinks he's the genius and the king of the world long from 22.5 doesn't realize. Everybody else has a different entry point, which means they have a different puke point. Puke point, we say that, we mean capitulation, an area where they will capitulate and give up and puke it up, as we say. It's an old term, right? I'm going to puke it up here. Just means capitulate. Admit you're wrong. And sometimes people don't even admit they're wrong, but they just need the cash. because they were playing with money they shouldn't have had. So it sinks down to 40 evens. Everybody's got a different entrance point. The nitwit long from 45 who didn't know risk models, who didn't know chip management, who didn't know bankroll management, who didn't know probability and statistics, who didn't know strategy, thesis, non-correlation. The guy long from 45, when it gets down to 40, is sweating bullets. Now the guy back at 22.5, he's still king of the world. Nobody can tell him anything. And he's talking to the guy online about, oh, no, you got to hold on, man. This thing's going to 500. Of course he's going to tell you that. He's long from 22.5. You're down $5. Right? Of course he doesn't care about your position. He only is speaking from the emotion of his own. And eventually when it gets down to 37.5, then 35, that guy says, I don't care. I got to give it up. And the guys from 42.5, they start giving it up. And the guys long from 37.5, everybody has a different entrance. Somebody got in at 32.5, and they ride it all the way down to 25, and they're fine. And they, at literally at $25 even, they were praying to the God they worship. Please, dear God, just let it go up again so I can get out. You see that run up, and a couple other people, oh, whoa, here we go again. It's taken off, $30, 32.5. And the same process begins again. Because some people that were in at 30, because everyone has a different entrance point. Some guy that was long at 30 is like, I'm out, 32.5, I'm out of this nonsense. And the whole thing starts again. And that guy long from 35, he's going to be facing $25 again. And then lower and lower, and this cycle repeats. House money phenomenon. Now, some people are asking, like, what do you think specifically he did wrong? Well, as my lawyer likes to say, it's not a matter sometimes of right or wrong. It's a matter of whether or not ones want to prosecute. If you're registered, there's something called front running, and there's something called collusion and trying to corner. And there's definite rules against it. So if he accumulated a bunch of shares, then knowing that he has a presence in a particular arena, tried to use that to pump up the price. And if he sold so much as one share, they got him. Now, whether they're going to get him, who knows? And there can be multiple attempts at getting somebody. You know, it's like, hey, did you do this with XYZ? Nope, that didn't work in a court of law. That failed. Okay, well, we'll take you to task for this particular rule. Did you pay? And then you got to go to court again, and you just get tied up in court for years and years and years. It can take a long, long time to get through all the rules. But you can be busted if you front run. That's why you only do business with honest people. You know, ones are like, man, you have a business relationship now with Danny Riley, not Top Step, but Mr. Top Step. And yeah, I do. You know why? Danny is honest. Danny's reputation was built. A lot of people don't realize. They just see this guy on the internet, and they don't know who they're dealing with. Danny ran the largest S&P 500 futures desk on the floor in the world. And people like Marty Schwartz, who's one of his friends, Marty was like a friend of his, the Pitbull, Prince Alaoud, really, really big names would only use Danny. Because what people are going to do on the floor, right? If they know a big order is going to come in, well, they're, hey, he's going to get long at 30. I'm going to sneak a few of mine in there while we're trading at 29.5. Then I'll put his order in at 30, let it run up. I front ran him, right? And Danny refused to do that. Even when it was very difficult to prove that's what somebody was doing, Danny absolutely refused. He's honest. He has character. He has integrity, right? That's who you do business with. So if they found that he had been accumulating so much as one share before he came up and so much as posted a picture, and then sold any of it, well, he bought some calls. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Does not matter. If he used that to profit off of so much as one share, they can get him. Whether they will or not, God only knows. But let's circle back, right? This phenomenon you see of just everybody's got a different entrance, which means everybody's got a different viewpoint, and that's why markets move. That's why they move. And when you have these spectacular bubbles, that's why they move in the manner you do. Take a look at that image, right? Let's jump to the Nasdaq in 2000. Look familiar? Big run up, big euphoria in 2000, kept running higher, kept running higher. I remember 2000. I was trading back then. You had interviews on financial news networks of people that were building, and it was new at the time, of putting like game rooms in their offices so that their workers could play these games. And they'd be like, Yeah, but your company hasn't had any revenue off of its debt. It has zero revenue for like the last year and a half. But .com and the asset on that stock will go higher if you can find a bigger fool to sell it to. Everybody was long from different points, 3,400, 3,600, 3,800, 4,000 on the Nasdaq. Until there's nobody left to sell it to on what's basically air beneath it. You fall down. Everybody that's long at 4,000, everybody that's long at 3,800 says, maybe this is not for me. They start giving it up, and the back and forth tussle begins. And since everybody has different puke points, that's the result. You see it over and over and over again. Heck, you guys remember in the old Aileron Trading channel when I did this? Do we need to go back to 2012? That look familiar? Big run up, big euphoria, can't go any lower. Dan's telling people, guys, that's not the way markets function. It's just a trade. It's just a trade. Dan gets out in August of 2012 at the final push up, and then it was all over. Same thing, obviously, due to the correlation in silver. Wow, look at that. Same thing, all over again in silver. Runs up, euphoria, euphoria. Nobody left to sell to. Oh, gee, look at that. It falls. Oh, last one run up. Push higher. Oh, no. Somebody long from 38 is puking it up. Oh, gee, look at... And down we go. So now we're left with GameStop. Oh, gee, look at that. See the same thing all over again. It's not prediction. It's the way human beings behave. Everybody has a different puke point where their emotional tie just has to be given up for just pure fear and monetary reasons. And they have to puke it up. And you've seen that in GameStop. What happens in the future? I don't know. I'm not in the prediction business. I'm in the risk model business. So maybe that's a final entry. I've got other entries planned, and now that we got those, oops, I'm just playing with my pen. Those drums back, right? Now that we got the drums back, now that we got the risk disclosure statement up, I have some more entries planned for this channel, You Know a Trader, but some more interested in my thoughts a little more on GameStop, so I thought I would put one more entry out there on it because some people are interested in what I think because they say, hey, I know a trader, I know that Dan guy, and you know a trader, so you come listen to me, right? And just my thoughts on it, but that's all it ever is because you know a trader, you can hear my thoughts, but that's all it is. It's just my thoughts, not yours, for whatever the heck day it is. As always, stay safe, trade well, and remember that love doesn't cost a dime.